if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
Okay, that's the big UFO whistleblower in the government. And again, just to be clear, the Pentagon needed to sign off on us interviewing him. So he's a Pentagon-approved whistleblower. Our friend Brandon Weichert is here. A couple books that are relevant here. First, Winning Space, How America Remains a Superpower. And his newest book, Biohacked, China's Race to Control Life. They're both relevant. Brandon, great to hear you, brother.
Great to be back. Thanks for having me again.
Great you're here. So let me just ask you, the big picture. Do UFOs exist?
Well, whatever we're seeing is certainly not easy to identify for most people. So in that way, it's unidentified. So we know they're there. I do think there's something there. But as you know, I'm not sold on this idea that it's ET looking for a friend.
So if it's not an alien, what is it?
I think it is next generation, highly exotic U.S. military, Chinese military, Russian military craft.
It's hard for us to understand this and to visualize it, but I made a reference earlier to the atomic bomb.
Right.
And I feel like if you were living in 1945, the atomic bomb would seem otherworldly. And it's been a while since we've there's been other, like the stealth bomber seems pretty otherworldly too. So you're suggesting it's like a whole nother step of military capability that we don't know about. Like what?
So right now, just think about what David Grush said, the whistleblower, the Pentagon-approved whistleblower. What did he say there? He said that there is a, quote, Cold War going on between the United States, China, and Russia to retrieve these craft. Well, there is a Cold War going on, particularly between the United States and China, not just as we see it in the South China Sea and sort of play out in the news media, but there's a Cold War going on for things like dominating rare earth minerals. There's a Cold War going on for dominating the creation of fourth industrial revolution technology. That's biotech, that's aerospace technologies like hypersonic vehicles, metamaterials, things like graphene. The MIT scientist Shane Todd may have been murdered by Huawei while working in Singapore because of his work on graphene. In fact, it's believed that the Malaysian Airlines may have been taken down in 2014 because it was carrying illegally grabbed graphene and metamaterials, but that was put on the plane headed for Beijing by Chinese spies. So there is a Cold War going on for exotic technology. And I don't think, though, the exotic technology in question is alien. I think that's actually the cover story. I think the real truth is that the United States many decades ago developed some really amazing next generation technology, and that's what we're seeing. And I think actually the Chinese have probably also reverse engineered technology from things they pilfered from us. And I think the Russians also, many decades ago, when they were the Soviet Union, got access to this technology and been working on their own programs. And I think that's what we're seeing in the sky, is various national militaries experimenting in our airspace. And I think that's really what this is.
Can you help us understand the order of magnitude difference between what we know military is capable of, like when we go to an air show, versus what a hypersonic missile or one day, I suppose, jet is capable of?
Well, so hypersonic technology is even kind of old when you consider it. I mean, we've been working with the hypersonic technology for decades. Now, we haven't scaled it up. This has been America's problem, is we always develop these amazing new technologies and we really don't scale it up. It's China who will then take the technology and actually scale it up to something that they can use. So in the case of hypersonic, the Chinese military has probably the most sophisticated hypersonic program in existence today. They have vehicles that can travel around the Earth at 3,800 miles an hour. And then they tested this vehicle 2 years ago, the summer of 2021. It came within 20 miles of its intended target in the Gobi Desert in China after circling the Earth, I think 30 times at 3,800 miles an hour. We don't have a system.
Whoa.
Yeah, we don't have a system that can defend against that. Our air defense network is primed for defending against conventional ballistic missile technology. And that hypersonic technology is technically somewhat old. So it is likely that our military and now the Chinese military and the Russian militaries, they are experimenting on a small scale with technology that might even be generations ahead of that. The question is, can they scale it up and apply it in a fashion that will help them strategically to change the outcome of strategic issues? We know China wants to dominate these fields so they can become the #1 superpower by 2049, the 100th year anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. And they need to be able to have scalable technology like this.
How long does it take to travel around the whole world at 3,800 miles an hour?
Relatively instantly. We know that, for instance, this technology could reach here within 5 to 10 minutes. And again, our air defense network cannot defend against this tech. And that's the scary thing.
So an airplane flight to China is, I don't know.
Well, it gets a little
12
bit
hours?
different. It gets a little bit different when we're talking about putting people, and it's a little bit different. But basically, a hypersonic glide vehicle traveling at that speed or even faster, it's believed China can get, because they have a larger wind tunnel for testing and building these things than we do presently. So conceivably, it could be as little as 5 to 10 minutes, at most half an hour. And we don't have the ability to track and defend against that right now.
Okay, so all that, like, that's crazy and like really bad too, if you're American. But like, how does that explain like that video out of Vegas with the police body camera? It's like this green light. Like, what is that?
It could, I mean, maybe it is aliens, but again, I think given where that is located, there's a lot of, defense installations there doing all kinds of weird tests. It's possible that this was a malfunctioning thing. And I mean, what I think is going on is an elaborate cover story. I think the Chinese, and I think this, I've been warning the military. In fact, Grush's home agency, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA, I've consulted with before, and I have spoken to people there. I've spoken to people at DOD in which I explain, I believe China has caught up with us and may even be leapfrogging us in critical next generation technologies. And I think what the DOD might be doing is putting out an elaborate cover story to try to bluff China from using this next generation technology in war against us by saying, hey, look, China, we've got little green men that we captured decades ago, and we've had decades of lead time to develop this stuff. Maybe that's not true. Maybe that's a bluff.
Okay, so that's my last question for you. We only got about 2 minutes.
Okay.
That whistleblower, like the fact that whistleblower
he's approved
is a Pentagon approved, like that doesn't make sense. So what's the play there for the Pentagon?
I think it might be some desperate attempt at deterrence. The Chinese have technology now that they can beat us with if they apply it, and they've shown they can apply it in the real world. So maybe this is a Hail Mary attempt by the Pentagon to try to keep China from pulling the trigger on deploying these systems in combat, because these systems can actually beat us. We don't have defenses against us. So if we tell them we've got little green men, and it kind of gets in their headspace and scares them even for a few years from using these systems, maybe we can catch up too. But I think that's what's
That's great. That's great. And we have, not only do we have the little green men, we also have we have their spacecraft and their materials that aren't of this planet even. And we can use those to who knows what, but you better not attack. That is crazy. Brandon Weichert, Winning Space, How America Remains a Superpower, a must read, and his newest book, Biohacked, China's Race to Control Life. Brandon, always good to talk to you, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. Thanks so much for watching that clip. If you want to see more truth like that, please subscribe to the first YouTube page. Just hit subscribe below.